Here we are on the first night using the Durston tent. We set up in a bit of an undulating site in the highlands of Tasmania, Australia. One thing I can report about this so far is it's been raining, but there's a bit of condensation. You can see there, that's inside the tent. Got a tiny bit of moisture on my finger. But in Tasmania we tend to get it's very hard to keep the condensation out of any tent. So it meant that ends of the sleeping bags are slightly damp. But in terms of space, we're both sleeping head to head rather than head to toe. So I had the smaller side. That worked really well. This big, long, lanky fella, he's 6'4". He was on the side where he's supposed to sleep. That went really well. There's a fair bit of space there in the vestibule, as you can see. He set up this pack like that, so he still had plenty of space to get out. On my side, in order to get out, it's not too bad because the pole's there. I've got my pack outside because it's sort of sloping downhill a bit, or ever so slightly. I don't have that much space on my vestibule side, but that's fine. But everything else functions really well. The zips are great. Even though there doesn't seem to be much headroom where I slept last night, it still was comfortable enough. Another little innovation that I just realised is that you can use the magnetic tie from the inside as well. I had tied up using this cord here, that works, but it also works with the magnetic one. Good stuff. Here's our campsite at Mount Anne. You can see that the undulating ground we had to work with. That's why it wasn't pitched as well as was designed, but it worked for us. Right, we're packing up after 2 days here. There's still a bit of condensation, but that's not unusual for any tent. So when we pack that together, I suspect it's going to be wet on the floor, but let's just have a look at the floor. It's a bit dirty. A few driplets that we've put in there, but the impressive thing about this ground sheet as well is that it's kept everything dry, even though it's such a thin fabric. So very impressed with that. Other thing that I wanted to show you was the way that these things go. It's just one easy slide. That's just so brilliant. Love the magnetic thing. But just to give you another context about the reason why we slid downhill a bit, if you have a look at the topography there, it's slightly downhill over there. In the way that we set it, we also were constrained with rocks underneath. So you can see how this side was constrained by plants, but also where we could find some place to put it in. That was an ideal spot to put them in, but we had to put them in where we could to avoid the rocks. So it was on this side, the vestibule was really good. It was really big. And one innovation, or not innovation, but something that I've never done before, this little corner, we had the pack standing in there. That was excellent. It meant that you could still use all that, space to get out. I think that's really good. Now, the fact that the tent was set like that on this side meant that it was a bit scraggly to get in and out on this side. So it seems like
the size here in the vestibule was a lot less. But yes, that's because of the nature of where we camped and some of the obstacles that we had in place. But still, very impressive. The pockets, they were super handy. There's one time that this bottom thing which holds the pole end came out. There's a few times in the night where I bumped the pole with my feet, but also you can probably see that it was sloping down towards this end. So we both ended up very, very squished against this. So I hit this a number of times, but it still stayed up. That's the important thing. And this zip, absolutely something love it. The way that goes down, we'll do that with one hand too, that's good. So getting out in the middle of the night to go to the loo, that was okay. But overall, I'm really impressed so far, given that the trying conditions that we've got here in Tasmania. So, you know, it's not brilliantly set, as you can see. So the bottom of our sleeping bags got a tad damp, but that's per normal. I haven't experienced a tent where that isn't the case, because we sort of slid down towards this end, as you can see. Yeah, it's also heading downhill a tad, and that meant that the pitch over here wasn't that great. But if we get to a campsite where it's flat and we can use it where we can top and tail rather than both sleeping at one end, situation better as well. The other issue that I wanted to mention was I do wonder if, you know, if we're going out today, but I do wonder if we packed up the tent and then had to set it up again. Obviously the condensation side's going to make everything inside relatively dampish, but again, that's what I've always experienced with any other tent that I've had. So yeah, I don't know how the Durston would do it, but it's not a criticism, it's just, you know, I'm just wondering if it's going to be any worse or any bad. I'll have to report on that on a future bushwalk. The other good thing about this tent, I suspect, and I've done this at home, is the time to pack up. I mean, it's sort of slightly dizzying, it's no big deal, but if time was an essence, you could get this thing packed in maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I like the way that these poles collapse. That's one out. Do the other side, and you have it packed up in no time at all. I might just time myself to see how I go. There it is. It's not very well done, but the good thing about this is you can sort of squish it in quite easily. 2.5 minutes. Quite good going, I reckon. It's the fastest I've ever had. And as my outsider pointed out, he didn't help me at all. So yeah, good.